The crystalline chamber stretched beyond what human eyes could easily measure. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood at the center of the massive hall, his dress uniform pressed and perfect. Beside him, Ambassador Nicole Carter held a data tablet containing humanity's entire presentation. They had traveled 3 months to reach this place, crossing distances that once seemed impossible to their ancestors. The Galactic Council sat in a circle around them. Hundreds of different species occupied the viewing platforms. Some looked almost human, others defied description. Ryan had spent weeks learning their names and cultures, hoping to make a good impression. This was humanity's chance to join something bigger than themselves. High Chancellor Vexithor descended from his elevated platform. His species resembled giant birds with 4 arms and brilliant golden feathers. His eyes were sharp and intelligent. When he spoke, a translator device rendered his words into English. Humanity of Earth, you have requested membership in the Galactic Council. We have reviewed your petition. We have studied your world and your history. Vexthor's voice carried weight and authority. Tell us why we should accept your kind into our community. Ryan stepped forward. His heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. Honored council members, humanity comes before you with open hands and open hearts. We have much to learn from you. We also have much to offer. Our scientists have made breakthroughs in fusion energy and medical technology. Our artists create beauty in 10,000 different forms. Our people have overcome countless challenges to reach this moment. He gestured to the holographic display Nicole activated. Images of Earth appeared above them. Cities gleaming with lights. Oceans full of life. Mountains reaching toward the sky. Children playing in parks. Scientists working in laboratories. Artists painting murals on building walls. We know our history is not perfect, Ryan continued. We have fought wars. We have made mistakes. But we have learned from them. We have grown. In the last century alone, we have eliminated hunger on our world. We have cured diseases that once killed millions. We have united under a single planetary government dedicated to peace and progress. We ask only for a chance to prove ourselves worthy of joining you. A murmur ran through the assembled species. Some seemed moved by his words. Others appeared skeptical. Vexthor raised one hand for silence. Your words are carefully chosen, Captain Mitchell. But words mean nothing without context. He turned to address the entire council. This species comes from what we classify as a death world. Their planet has extreme temperatures, violent weather, dangerous predators. They evolved in constant struggle for survival. Another council member rose. Councillor Drathmore was a reptilian creature with scales like dark metal. His voice hissed through the translator. Their history speaks for itself. 2 world wars in a single century. Nuclear weapons deployed against their own kind. Millions dead from conflicts that could have been resolved through discussion. They nearly destroyed their own planet through industrial pollution. These are not the actions of a peaceful species. Nicole spoke up, her voice calm but firm. Every species makes mistakes while growing. We do not hide our past. We acknowledge it. We learn from it. Humanity has not had a major war in over 60 years. We have dismantled 90% of our nuclear weapons. We have restored damaged ecosystems across our world. Progress takes time, a gentle voice interrupted. Councillor Zephyra floated in a tank of water mounted on a mobile platform. Her species was aquatic, with translucent skin and bioluminescent patterns. I have studied humanity extensively. They show remarkable adaptability. Their capacity for change is extraordinary. They have traits that could benefit this council. Vexthor's feathers ruffled with apparent irritation. Adaptability born from aggression. Councillor Zephyra, you are too trusting. These humans are warmongers. Look at their entertainment. Look at their sports. They celebrate competition and combat. Their children play with toy weapons. Their most popular stories involve conflict and violence. Ryan felt frustration building in his chest. We celebrate overcoming challenges. We value courage and determination. Yes, we have competitive spirits. That drive pushed us to explore our solar system. It motivated us to cure diseases. It inspired us to reach for the stars. The same fire that once fueled our wars now powers our achievements. Exactly my point, Vexthor said coldly. Fire. Humanity burns with intensity that threatens stability. The Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years. We achieve this through cooperation and understanding, through patience and diplomacy. Your kind does not understand these concepts. You want immediate results. You push forward without considering consequences. Other council members began speaking. Some defended humanity. Most echoed Vexthor's concerns. The debate continued for hours. Ryan and Nicole answered every question. They provided data and evidence. They showed recordings of human achievements. They explained their values and hopes for the future. Nothing seemed to matter. As the sun set outside the crystalline walls, Vexthor called for a vote. The chamber fell silent. One by one, the council members cast their decisions. The holographic display showed the results in real time. Red lights outnumbered blue lights by a massive margin. The decision is made, Vexthor announced. Humanity's petition for membership is rejected. Furthermore, we establish the following restrictions. Human vessels are forbidden from traveling beyond their solar system. Human expansion is limited to their current planetary bodies. A monitoring station will be established at the edge of their space to ensure compliance. These restrictions will remain in place indefinitely. The words hit Ryan like physical blows. He had prepared for rejection. He had not prepared for imprisonment. You are quarantining us? Locking humanity in our own system like criminals? We are protecting the galaxy from a potentially dangerous species, Vexthor said. His tone suggested the matter was closed. When humanity demonstrates genuine peaceful intent over several generations, we may reconsider. Until then, you will remain isolated. Zephra's patterns flickered with distress. This is wrong. We punish them for potential crimes they have not committed. We judge them by their past while ignoring their progress. The council has voted, Counselor, Drathmore said with satisfaction. The matter is settled. Ryan looked at Nicole. Her face was carefully neutral, but he saw the anger in her eyes. They had come so far, worked so hard. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, all for nothing. We understand your decision, Ryan said quietly, but know this. Humanity will not stop growing. We will not stop improving. We will prove you wrong about us. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday you will see that we deserve a place among the stars. Vexthor's expression did not change. Perhaps, or perhaps isolation will teach your species the humility it lacks. Ryan and Nicole walked out of the chamber together. Behind them, the council moved on to other business. Humanity had been dismissed, rejected, locked away. But as they boarded their ship for the long journey home, Ryan made a silent promise. Humanity would survive this setback. They would grow stronger, and when the galaxy finally needed them, they would be ready. The question was whether the council would realize their mistake before it was too late. 15 years had passed since the rejection. Director Kevin Barnes stood in the command center of Solar Defense Station Alpha, watching ships move through the orbital traffic pattern. Earth had changed dramatically in those years. So had humanity's attitude toward the galaxy beyond their prison walls. "Morning report, Director," said his assistant, bringing up displays on the main screen. 3 new mining facilities came online at the asteroid belt. The Mars colonies hit population milestone of 2 million yesterday. Europa Station reported another successful harvest from their underwater farms. Kevin nodded, studying the numbers. Humanity had turned their anger and disappointment into fuel for progress. The Council wanted them isolated? Fine. They would make their solar system into something the galaxy had never seen before. What about the defense grid? Kevin asked. 98% operational. We have weapons platforms covering every approach to the inner system. If anyone crosses the quarantine line without permission, we will know within seconds. The assistant paused. Not that we expect trouble from the Council. They seem content to ignore us. Better to be prepared, Kevin said. His military background made him cautious. The Council had shown their true nature during that vote. They feared what they did not understand. Fear made people unpredictable. Across the solar system, Dr. Lisa Chen worked in her laboratory beneath the surface of the moon. She reviewed data from the latest test of their new fusion reactor. The design was revolutionary. It generated 3 times more power than anything the Council reportedly used. Her team had made the breakthrough by studying Earth's sun more closely than any previous scientists. They learned to replicate the fusion process with remarkable efficiency. Other human scientists had made similar advances, medical treatments that extended healthy lifespan by decades, artificial intelligence that could assist with complex calculations. Materials stronger and lighter than anything previously known. Dr. Chen, you need to see this, called out her colleague Peter from his workstation. The Deep Space Monitoring Array picked up something strange, a signal from beyond Council territory. Lisa walked over to examine the data. The signal was faint but definitely artificial. It repeated in patterns that suggested intelligence. But the interesting part was its direction. It came from an area of space the Council supposedly avoided. Can you enhance it? She asked. Working on it. But Lisa, there is something else. The signal contains what looks like a warning marker. See these frequency spikes? In galactic standard code, those mean danger or threat. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Send this data to Admiral Mitchell immediately. He needs to know about this. Admiral Ryan Mitchell received the data while touring the fleet yards orbiting Venus. He was older now, his hair showing gray at the temples, but his eyes remained sharp and focused. Beside him walked Commander Amy Walsh, one of the fleet's rising stars. She had been a teenager during the rejection. Now she commanded her own ship. A warning signal from dark space, Ryan said, reading the report on his tablet. The Council has restricted zones out there, areas they refuse to explore. I always wondered what they were hiding from. Amy studied the data with interest. Should we try to investigate? Our new ships have better range than the old models. We could send a probe beyond the quarantine zone. And give the Council an excuse to take military action against us? No, but we should increase monitoring. If something is coming from that direction, I want advance warning. They walked through the construction bay where humanity's newest warship was taking shape. The vessel was sleek and powerful, incorporating every lesson learned from Earth's naval history. Humanity might be locked in their system, but they were not going to be defenseless. Admiral, can I ask you something? Amy said. Do you regret what happened at the Council? Do you wish we had said something different? Ryan considered the question carefully. I used to. I spent months replaying that day in my mind, wondering if better words could have changed the outcome. But now? No. The Council was always going to reject us. They were afraid. Fear makes people close their minds to possibility. But we could have had access to their technology, their knowledge. Think of what we could have learned. We learned something more valuable, Commander. We learned to depend on ourselves. Every breakthrough we have made came from human ingenuity and determination. We did not take shortcuts by copying alien designs. We built something uniquely ours. Ryan smiled slightly. Besides, look at what we have accomplished. Our fusion reactors outperform their antimatter systems. Our medical science surpasses most Council species. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable. Isolation forced us to become better. Amy nodded slowly. She belonged to a generation that never knew life before the rejection. To her, humanity's independence was natural and normal. The younger officers talk about it differently than you do, Admiral. They do not see the rejection as a tragedy. They see it as freedom. We got to develop our own path instead of following someone else's rules. Your generation gives me hope, Commander. You carry none of the bitterness my generation struggled with. When humanity finally does join the greater galaxy, your generation will lead the way. Weeks passed. The strange signal continued, growing marginally stronger. Lisa's team worked constantly to decode its full meaning. What they found was disturbing. The signal was definitely a warning. It spoke of something massive approaching from the void between galaxies, something hungry and hostile. The message was old, perhaps thousands of years ancient. Someone had placed it as an alarm system. Lisa brought her findings to a meeting of Earth's Leadership Council. Kevin was there. Ryan attended via holographic link. Political leaders from every major Earth nation gathered to hear the news. "We need to inform the Galactic Council," Lisa said. "This warning predates their civilization. Something scared whoever built that beacon enough that they wanted to warn others. The Council has resources and knowledge we lack. They might understand this threat better than we do." "They will ignore any warning from us," Kevin argued. "We are the barbaric humans who cannot be trusted. They will assume we are trying to trick them or manipulate them somehow." Ryan leaned forward in his holographic projection. "Kevin is probably right, but we have to try. If this threat is real and we said nothing, we would be no better than the council members who judged us unfairly." The vote was close, but the decision was made. Earth would send a message to the Galactic Council, informing them of the deep space signal and its warning. They would share all their data freely. 3 days later, they received the Council's response. It was brief and dismissive. The Council thanked Earth for their concern, but assured them that the area of space in question had been investigated thoroughly. There was no threat. Humanity should focus on their own system and stop worrying about matters beyond their understanding. Amy was in the command center when the response came through. She read it twice, not quite believing the arrogance. "They did not even look at our data. They rejected it based on who we are, not what we found." "I wish I could say I was surprised," Ryan said from his position beside her. He had come to the command center specifically to see the Council's response. "But this is typical. They believe their knowledge is complete. They cannot imagine that primitive humans might discover something they missed. So what do? We prepare. We watch. We hope we are wrong about the danger." Ryan looked at the star charts displayed on the main screen. "And if we are right, we hope the Council figures it out before it is too late." But deep in dark space, something was already moving. The swarm had noticed the galaxy and its abundance of life. They were coming, vast and unstoppable. And the Galactic Council had no idea what was about to hit them. Humanity watched their sensors and waited. They had been rejected once for being too aggressive and too violent. Soon, the galaxy would learn why humans evolved those traits. When everything gentle and peaceful failed, the universe needed those who knew how to fight. The first Council world fell in less than 6 hours. News of the attack spread through galactic networks like wildfire. High Chancellor Vex Thor watched the reports with growing horror. The recordings showed ships unlike anything in Council databases. They moved in perfect coordination, millions of vessels acting as a single organism. The swarm had arrived. "Our forces cannot hold them," reported a military commander from the front lines. His image flickered on the holographic display, showing smoke and destruction behind him. "They adapt to every weapon we use. Energy shields stop working after the first few hits. Kinetic weapons become useless within minutes. They learn from each attack and counter it immediately." Vex Thor felt his feathers stand rigid with fear. "Fall back to the secondary defensive line. Evacuate all civilians. We need time to study this enemy and develop proper countermeasures. But time was something the Council did not have. The swarm consumed everything in its path. Entire planets stripped of resources. Populations that could not evacuate simply vanished, absorbed into the massive biological machine. The swarm did not negotiate. It did not communicate. It simply consumed. Counselor Drathmore's homeworld was next. He watched from orbit as the swarm descended on his planet like a dark cloud. His military had prepared defenses based on everything learned from the first attack. None of it mattered. The swarm broke through within 3 hours. Across the galaxy, Counselor Zephyra studied the attack patterns from her research station. She saw what others were missing. The Council fought using coordinated tactics developed over centuries of peace. They relied on predictable strategies and established protocols. The swarm analyzed these patterns instantly and exploited every weakness. "We are fighting the wrong way," she said during an emergency council session. "Our methods are too rigid, too predictable. We need something the swarm cannot anticipate." "What do you suggest?" Vexthor asked desperately. In 3 weeks, the Council had lost 5 worlds and billions of lives. Their military forces were in retreat everywhere. Zephyra's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with urgency. "We need to contact the humans." The chamber erupted in protests. Drathmore's voice rose above the others. "The violent primitives? They would be no help against this threat. They barely have weapons that can leave their own system." "They have something we lack," Zephyra insisted. "Unpredictability, aggression, adaptability born from surviving on a death world. The swarm cannot adapt to what it cannot predict. Human tactics would be chaos to a hive mind expecting order." Vexthor's primary eyes closed briefly. His pride warred with his desperation. "We rejected them. They have no reason to help us. And even if they would, our laws still quarantine their system. We would have to officially reverse our decision." "Then reverse it," Zephyra said, "or watch our civilization die with our pride intact." The debate continued for hours, but events were moving faster than the Council could react. The swarm reached the edge of human quarantine space. General Brandon Hayes commanded the Solar Defense Fleet from his flagship. He was a veteran of every major military exercise humanity had conducted since the rejection. When the swarm fleet appeared at the system's edge, his forces were ready. "Contact Admiral Mitchell," Brandon ordered. "Tell him we have company." Ryan arrived in the command center within minutes. Amy was already there, coordinating defensive positions. The main display showed the swarm fleet in detail, thousands of ships, each one different but all moving with perfect synchronization. "They stopped at the quarantine boundary," Amy observed. "They are scanning our defenses." "Let them scan," Ryan said calmly. "Give the order to arm all weapons. If they cross that line, we open fire immediately. No warnings, no negotiations." Kevin joined them, having rushed from his station when the alert sounded. "The Council's emergency networks are full of panic. This swarm has destroyed everything sent against them. We should evacuate the civilian stations and fall back to Earth." "No," Ryan's voice was firm. "We hold the line here. If we retreat, we give them the entire outer system. Let them come to us. Make them fight for every meter of space." The swarm fleet moved forward. Brandon gave the order and humanity's weapons opened fire. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams lanced out from defense platforms. Kinetic rounds traveled at relativistic speeds. The swarm ships began to fall. But as they died, the survivors changed. Their hulls adapted to resist the energy weapons. Their movements shifted to avoid the kinetic rounds. Within 10 minutes, human casualties mounted while swarm losses decreased. "They are adapting just like they did against the Council," Amy said, her voice tight with stress. Ryan watched the battle displays, his mind racing. The Council fought with predictable patterns. What if humans did the opposite? "All ships, switch to random fire patterns. Navigation, Implement irregular evasive maneuvers. No ship should repeat the same tactic twice. Confuse them. Make them work for every adaptation. The human fleet shifted tactics. Ships began moving in seemingly random patterns. Weapons fired at irregular intervals. Some ships retreated while others advanced aggressively. It looked like chaos. It was chaos. Deliberate, calculated chaos. The swarm hesitated. Its hive mind struggled to find patterns in the disorder. Ships that adapted to one attack pattern found themselves vulnerable to completely different tactics seconds later. The humans refused to establish any predictable rhythm. "It is working," Brandon reported with excitement. "Their adaptation rate is slowing. They cannot adjust fast enough to pure randomness." Ryan smiled grimly. "That is because they are fighting an enemy that evolved through millions of years of competition and conflict. We learned to be unpredictable to survive. Keep hitting them. Do not give them time to compensate." The battle raged for 8 hours. By the end, the human fleet had destroyed the swarm's scouting force completely. Not a single enemy ship survived. Human losses were significant, but manageable. As the last swarm ship exploded, a message came through on diplomatic channels. It was marked with Council priority codes. Ryan opened it expecting more dismissive messages. Instead, he saw Vexthor's face. The High Chancellor looked exhausted. His golden feathers were dull and disordered. "Admiral Mitchell, I am sending this message on behalf of the Galactic Council. We have observed your battle with the swarm. Your tactics proved effective where ours failed." Ryan said nothing, waiting for the real reason for the contact. Vexthor continued with visible difficulty. "The Council is facing extinction. The swarm overwhelms us at every engagement. Our forces cannot adapt quickly enough to counter them. We need help." He paused, struggling with the words. "We need your help." "You quarantined us," Ryan said flatly. "You called us warmongers and primitives. You locked us in our own system like criminals. Why should humanity risk our lives for the Council now?" "Because it is the right thing to do." The voice came from off-screen. Zephyra moved into view, her aquatic form visible through her transport tank. "I know you, Admiral Mitchell. I studied humanity for years. You believe in helping those who cannot help themselves. Your species fights for the innocent even when it costs you dearly. That is why the Council fears you. That same quality is why we need you now." Ryan looked at Amy and Kevin. He saw his own thoughts reflected in their eyes. The Council did not deserve help, but the innocent billions being consumed by the swarm did not deserve to die for their leader's mistakes. "The Council rejected us," Ryan said slowly. "If we help, that decision must be reversed. Humanity gets full membership. The quarantine ends immediately. We are treated as equals in all matters." Vexthor's expression showed pain, but also acceptance. "Agreed. All of it. Just please, help us survive." "Then we are coming," Ryan said. "Prepare coordinates for the nearest threatened world. The human fleet will be there in 72 hours. He ended the transmission and looked at his officers. "Get every ship ready for combat. This is what we trained for. Time to show the galaxy what humans can do." Captain Justin Brooks stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Around him, the crew worked efficiently at their stations. They were heading into unknown territory, traveling faster than any human ship had gone before. Behind them, 20 more human vessels followed in tight formation. "Approaching the rally point," reported the navigation officer. "Council ships should be visible soon." Justin studied the tactical display. They were heading to the planet Theros, a Council world with a population of 3 billion. The swarm had it surrounded. Without intervention, it would fall within days. The Council fleet came into view, 50 ships of various designs, each representing different member species. They looked impressive, but Justin saw the damage. Scorched hulls, makeshift repairs. These were survivors of previous battles, not fresh reinforcements. A communication came through. Human vessels, this is Fleet Commander Rolf of the Theros Defense Force. We are grateful for your arrival. Please take position in Sector 7 of our defensive grid. Justin shook his head. Negative, Commander Ralph. We are not integrating into your defensive grid. That is exactly what the swarm expects. Send us the location of their main concentration. We are going straight for them. There was a pause. Captain Brooks, that would be a direct assault against their strongest position. Our tactical analysis shows that approach has a 90% failure rate. Then it is a good thing we do not follow your tactical analysis, Justin replied. Trust us, Commander. We know what we are doing. He cut the channel and turned to his crew. All ships, attack Formation Delta. Target the swarm's command cluster. Hit them fast and hard, then break off before they can adapt. Make them chase us. The human fleet accelerated toward the swarm position. The enemy ships moved to intercept, their formations perfect and coordinated. Justin waited until they were almost in range, then gave the order. Fire everything! The Defiance and its sister ships unleashed their full arsenal. Missiles, energy weapons, and kinetic rounds all struck at once. The swarm ships staggered under the assault. Then, just as the enemy began adapting, the human ships scattered. Evasive pattern, Charlie, Justin ordered. Make them work for it. The swarm gave chase, but the human ships moved unpredictably. They split up, regrouped, then split again. Some charged forward aggressively. Others fell back suddenly. There was no pattern, no predictable sequence. The swarm's hive mind struggled to coordinate responses to pure chaos. Meanwhile, the Council fleet moved in on the confused swarm forces. With the enemy focused on the humans, they could strike effectively. Ships that moments ago were losing now found openings to attack. Admiral Ryan Mitchell watched the battle from his command ship. He had arrived with the second wave of human forces, 60 more ships, to reinforce Justin's attack. Nicole Carter stood beside him, now serving as Earth's official ambassador to the Galactic Council. They are learning, Nicole observed, watching the tactical displays. The Council forces, they are starting to use more aggressive maneuvers. They have to, Ryan said. Fighting the swarm with their old peaceful methods is suicide, but it will take time for them to adjust their thinking. Meanwhile, we need to show them what works. A message came from the planet's surface. Vexthor himself was planetside, helping coordinate the evacuation of civilians. Admiral Mitchell, the swarm is attempting to land ground forces on the northern continent. Our defensive emplacements are insufficient. Sending reinforcements now, Ryan replied. He switched channels. General Hayes, you are cleared for planetary assault. Keep those landing zones clear. Brandon's voice came back immediately. On it. My Marines are ready. The human dropships descended through the atmosphere under heavy fire. They carried soldiers trained in Earth's harshest environments. Men and women who knew how to fight in jungles, deserts, Arctic zones, and underwater. When they hit the ground, they moved with practiced efficiency. The swarm ground forces were terrifying. Massive creatures that absorbed damage and adapted rapidly. But they had never faced human infantry before. The Marines used tactics from 100 different Earth battles, guerrilla warfare, coordinated team strikes, booby traps, and ambushes. Every trick learned from thousands of years of human conflict. Vexthor watched from a command bunker as human soldiers pushed back the swarm landing. He saw them fight with a ferocity that shocked him. They took risks no Council soldier would consider. They adapted their tactics constantly. When one approach failed, they immediately tried something different. A human soldier ran past the bunker carrying a wounded alien civilian. She had been shot twice but refused to stop until the civilian was safe. Another soldier provided covering fire, laughing maniacally as he taunted the enemy. They were terrifying. They were magnificent. Is this what we rejected? Vexthor asked quietly. One of his aides stood nearby, too frightened to respond. The battle for Theros lasted 3 days. In the end, the planet was saved. The swarm retreated, unable to overcome the combination of human unpredictability and council resources. It was the first major victory against the invasion. Ryan met with council leadership in a temporary command center. Vexathor was there, along with Drathmore, Zephyra, and commanders from a dozen other species. They all looked exhausted but hopeful. "Your tactics work," Drathmore admitted grudgingly. "The swarm cannot adapt to your chaos. It is against everything we believe about proper military coordination, but it is effective." "Because you fight like you negotiate," Ryan explained, "with rules and protocols and predictable patterns. The swarm is a hive mind. It expects logic and order. Humans do not always provide those things. We are emotional, irrational, and creative. That makes us dangerous to an enemy that relies on predictability." Zephyra's patterns glowed softly. "We judged you for those qualities. We called them flaws. Now they are saving us." Vexthor spoke up, his voice heavy with regret. "Admiral Mitchell, I owe you and all humanity an apology. The Council was wrong. I was wrong. We let fear and prejudice blind us to your true nature. You are not warmongers. You are survivors. And survival requires the very traits we condemned." "The question is what happens after this war," Ryan said. "We did not come here for revenge or to hear apologies. We came because innocent people needed help. But when this is over, humanity expects the Council to honor their agreement. Full membership, equal treatment, no more quarantines or restrictions." "You will have it," Vexthor promised. "I will personally ensure the Council follows through. But first, we must win this war." Nicole stepped forward. "Then we need to coordinate better. Human ships should be integrated with Council fleets. We teach you our tactics. You share your resources and technology. We work together as true allies." "Agreed," said several Council members simultaneously. Over the following weeks, human forces spread throughout Council space. Wherever the swarm attacked, human ships appeared to counter them. The tide of the war began to shift. Worlds that would have fallen were saved. Evacuation efforts succeeded where they should have failed. But the swarm was learning too. It began sending larger forces, more concentrated attacks. The hive mind was adapting to human unpredictability by overwhelming it with sheer numbers. Dr. Lisa Chen worked around the clock in a Council research station. She had access to alien technology now, combining it with human innovations. Her team made a breakthrough. They discovered that the swarm communicated through a specific quantum frequency. If they could disrupt that frequency, they might damage the hive mind's coordination. "We need to get close to their central nexus," Lisa explained to Ryan over a secure channel. "Close enough to deploy a quantum disruption device. If it works, we could sever their command structure temporarily." "That means going deep into swarm-controlled space," Ryan said. "A suicide mission." "Not if we do it right. I am still working on the device. Give me another week." Ryan looked at the star charts. The swarm's main force was gathering around Chorus Prime, the Council's capital world. If it fell, the war was lost. Everything pointed to a final, decisive battle. "You have 1 week," Ryan told Lisa. "Then we are taking every ship we have to Chorus Prime. We end this there, one way or another." As preparations began for the final confrontation, soldiers and sailors from 100 species trained together. Humans taught them aggressive tactics. Council species shared their advanced technology. For the first time in galactic history, the civilizations of the galaxy truly worked as one. And at the center of it all, Vexthor and Ryan planned the attack that would determine the fate of billions. The combined fleet gathered in orbit around Chorus Prime. More than 800 ships from dozens of species united under a single purpose. Admiral Ryan Mitchell stood at the command center of the flagship Unity, named specifically for this operation. Beside him, High Chancellor Vexthor studied the tactical displays with grim determination. "The swarm outnumbers us 3-1, Vexthor observed. "Their main fleet surrounds the planet. If we lose here, we lose everything." "Then we do not lose," Ryan said simply. "Commander Walsh, status report." Amy looked up from her station. "All human vessels are in position. Council ships are integrated into the formation. Ground forces are ready for planetary defense if the swarm breaks through. Dr. Chen reports that her quantum disruption device is ready for deployment." Ryan nodded. The plan was desperate but simple. They would engage the swarm fleet directly, creating chaos and confusion. During the battle, a small strike team would penetrate the enemy formation and reach the swarm's central nexus ship. There, they would deploy Lisa's device and disrupt the hive mind's coordination. "Who is leading the strike team?" Vexthor asked. "Captain Brooks volunteered," Ryan replied. "He has the best pilot in the fleet and the most experience fighting the swarm up close." Justin was already in his ship, checking systems one final time. His crew consisted of humans and aliens working together. His co-pilot was a young council officer named Kent, who had learned human tactics and earned the respect of his crew. "Ready when you are, Captain," Kent said. "Good, because this is going to get rough." Justin opened the channel to the Defiance's crew. "Everyone listen up. What we are about to do violates every rule of safe space combat. We are flying straight into the enemy center. They will shoot at us with everything they have. Our job is to not get hit while delivering the package. Stay sharp, stay unpredictable, and remember why we are doing this." The crew responded with determination. They had all lost friends or family to the swarm. This was personal. Ryan gave the order. "All ships, advance. Hit them with everything we have." The combined fleet moved forward. The swarm responded immediately, their ships forming defensive patterns. Energy weapons lit up the space between the two forces. The battle began. Human ships led the charge, moving erratically and aggressively. They drew the swarm's attention, forcing the enemy to focus on threats from multiple angles. Council ships provided covering fire and support, their weapons now coordinated with human tactics. On the planet below, General Brandon Hayes commanded the ground defenses. Swarm landing craft broke through the orbital battle, attempting to reach the surface. Human Marines and Council soldiers worked together to repel them. "Remember your training!" Brandon shouted over the communication network. "Do not let them establish a beachhead. Keep them off balance." The fighting was brutal. The swarm creatures were relentless, but the defenders fought with equal determination. Brandon himself led a charge against a swarm cluster that broke through the defensive line. His soldiers followed without hesitation, trusting in tactics that had protected Earth for generations. Vexthor watched from his position on the Unity. He saw human soldiers fighting alongside his own people. He saw them taking hits meant for alien comrades. He saw them laughing in the face of death, maintaining morale even in desperate situations. "They are insane," he said, with something approaching admiration. "They fight like every battle is their last." "Because we know any battle could be," Ryan replied. "That is what you never understood about humanity. We have lived with mortality and danger our entire existence. We do not take survival for granted. It makes us appreciate life more, fight harder to preserve it." In space, Justin guided the Defiance through the chaos. His ship darted between swarm vessels, taking advantage of the confusion created by the main fleet. Behind him, 3 more human ships followed, each carrying part of the disruption device. "Approaching the Nexus ship," reported his tactical officer. "Enemy contacts increasing. They are realizing what we are trying to do." "Then we move faster," Justin said. He pushed the Defiance to maximum speed, threading between enemy ships with centimeters to spare. His crew worked with perfect coordination, human and alien together. A massive swarm battleship moved to intercept them, its weapons powered up, preparing to fire. Justin did something no sane pilot would attempt. He flew directly at the battleship, accelerating instead of evading. At the last second, he spun the Defiance 90 degrees and skimmed along the battleship's hull, so close that their shields sparked. The battleship's weapons fired, but Justin was already past, using the enemy's own ship as cover. Kent laughed despite his fear. "You are completely crazy, Captain." "Crazy is what we do best," Justin replied with a grin. They reached the Nexus ship, a massive structure at the center of the swarm formation. It pulsed with bioelectric energy, coordinating the hive mind's activities. Lisa had determined this was the key to the swarm's effectiveness. "Deploy the device," Justin ordered. His team worked quickly, launching the quantum disruption device toward the Nexus ship. It latched onto the hull and began its activation sequence, 30 seconds until detonation. The swarm realized the threat. Hundreds of ships converged on Justin's position. He spun the Defiance around, preparing to retreat, but there were too many enemies. They would never make it out. "Captain, we need to go now," urged his navigation officer. Justin looked at the timer. 20 seconds. If they left now, the swarm might destroy the device before it activated. But if they stayed, they would be destroyed when it detonated. The device would work, but his crew would not survive to see it. He was about to give the order to retreat anyway when Ryan's voice came through. "Defiance, this is Unity. Help is coming. Hold position." A dozen council ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, appearing directly around the Defiance. They formed a protective barrier, their shields overlapping. Leading them was Vexthor himself in a command shuttle. "We protect our own now," Vexthor said simply. "Human or otherwise." The timer reached 0. The quantum disruption device detonated, sending waves of specifically tuned energy through the Nexus ship. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the swarm. The Nexus ship exploded. Throughout the battle space, swarm ships suddenly lost their coordination. They stopped moving in perfect unison. Ships collided with each other. Formations fell apart. "Now," Ryan ordered. "Hit them while they are confused." The combined fleet pressed their advantage. Without the Nexus coordinating them, the swarm ships were just individual vessels, dangerous, but no longer working as a unified hive mind. Human and council ships tore through them, using the chaos to devastating effect. On the ground, the swarm creatures suddenly became disorganized. They stopped coordinating their attacks. Brandon saw the change and seized the opportunity. "Push forward. Drive them back while they are vulnerable." The ground forces advanced, pushing the swarm away from populated areas. What had been a desperate defense became a counterattack. By nightfall, the planet's surface was secure. In space, the battle raged for 6 more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The swarm fleet, broken and confused, began to retreat. They withdrew from Chorus Prime, leaving wreckage and debris in their wake. When the last swarm ship vanished into deeper space, a cheer went up across the entire fleet. Human and alien crews celebrated together. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. Ryan found Vexthor on the observation deck of the Unity. The High Chancellor stood looking at the planet below, his feathers drooping with exhaustion. "We would be dead without you," Vexthor said quietly. "My people, my world, everything would be gone. I spent my life believing the Council's way was the only right way. I was wrong. I was so terribly wrong." "You were raised in peace," Ryan said gently. "Peace is valuable, worth preserving. But sometimes, to maintain peace, you need those who understand conflict. You need warriors as well as diplomats. Aggression as well as cooperation." Vexthor turned to face him. "Will humanity forgive the Council for how we treated you?" Ryan considered the question. "Humanity has been rejected, enslaved, oppressed, and dismissed throughout our history. We have learned that holding grudges only perpetuates the cycle of pain. Yes, Vexthor, we forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because forgiveness is how we break old patterns and build something better. Then the Council will ensure humanity receives everything we promised. Full membership, equal voice in all decisions. We will write the story of this war so that future generations know what humanity did for us. Just make sure you tell the truth, Ryan said. Tell them we were not heroes without fear. We were scared. We made mistakes, but we showed up anyway. That is what matters. Not being fearless, but being brave enough to act despite the fear. Weeks later, a formal ceremony was held on Chorus Prime. Representatives from every council species gathered to witness humanity's official acceptance. Ryan and Nicole stood at the center of the Great Hall, the same one where they had been rejected years before. Vexthor addressed the assembled species. 15 years ago, this council made a grave error. We judged humanity based on fear and prejudice. We saw their history of conflict and assumed they were dangerous. We were right about the danger. We were wrong about the reason. Humanity is dangerous to those who threaten the innocent. They are dangerous to tyrants and bullies. They are dangerous to any who believe might makes right. He paused, looking directly at Ryan. They are also loyal, brave, compassionate, and creative. They will fight to the last for those they call friends. They forgive those who wronged them. They teach others to be better through example. The galaxy is richer for having them among us. The Council voted unanimously to accept humanity. There was no debate, no dissent. The quarantine was lifted. Humanity was home. As the ceremony concluded, Amy found Ryan in a quiet corridor. What happens now, Admiral? We have the acceptance we always wanted. Ryan smiled. Now we do what humanity has always done. We explore, we learn, we build. We make mistakes and we grow from them. We face the next challenge, whatever it is. Together with our new friends. He looked out at the stars visible through the chamber windows. The galaxy rejected us once. Now we stand as proof that rejection does not define you. How you respond to it does. We chose to be better. We chose to help even when we had every reason not to. That is the real victory. Amy nodded, understanding. Humanity had fought for acceptance, but along the way they had discovered something more important. They had found their purpose in the galaxy, not as conquerors or rulers, but as protectors and friends. The future would bring new challenges, new threats, new opportunities, but whatever came, humanity would face it the way they always had, with courage, creativity, and an unbreakable will to survive. And now, they would not face it alone.